aficionados. This is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased, true crime channel on the internet. Well, what do you do when you're in trial and you're not sure you're going to make it to the Crime Talk studios? That's right. You ask Frank, the hardest working man in show business, and Julie to say, hey, just come set up at my house so we can do this because it's closer to the courthouse. And they did. So here we are coming from an undisclosed location here in Denver, Colorado this evening so that we can make sure that we started on time for our Patreon show as well, which will come in immediately after this. But right now, for those of you who have never joined us before, my name is Scott Reisch. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. And this is our weekly show. We answer the questions that people submit to us in the chat. And although we never ask for them, I can tell you that when you do the super chat, it really makes it very noticeable and more than likely that your question will be answered. Now, I've been in trial for the last 2 days and continuing in trial, but I've found out there's some new information going on out there in the world. And obviously, the new information going on there in the world that is of importance here is the fact that new charges have been filed. Actually, the complaint and information has been filed. As you know, Barry Morphew appeared in court a little over about a week and a half ago for an advisement of charges. He was advised that he was being held for an investigation of first-degree murder. Well, the final complaint and information has been filed. He goes back to court on May 27th, which is next week, where he'll be formally advised of the charges. Well, let's go ahead and go through them. And I'm not sure if we can pull these up or not, but we'll go through them. So the complaint and information, 5 charges. The first one, obviously the most serious, it is a Class 1 felony. It alleges that between and including May 9th of 2020 and May 10th of 2020, Barry Lee Morphew unlawfully. What does unlawfully mean in the complaint and information? It means without legal permission or justification. Feloniously, that means that it is a felony punishable by a possible sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections after deliberation and with intent to cause the death of a person other than himself, cause the death of Suzanne Renee Morphew, all in violation of 18.3.102 subparagraph 1A. That is a Class 1 felony, carries life in prison without the possibility of parole. One of the new charges, count 2, tampering with a deceased human body, a Class 3 felony here in the state of Colorado. The presumptive range is 4 to 12 years in the Colorado Department of Corrections if he were convicted. The count alleges between and including May 9th, 2020 and May 10th, 2020, Barry Lee Morphew, believing that an official proceeding was pending, in progress, or about to be instituted and acting without legal right or authority, unlawfully and feloniously, willfully destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered a human body, part of a human body, or human remains with intent to impair its or their appearance or availability in the official proceedings, all in violation of 18-8-610.5 of the Colorado Revised Statute. And the dates, I think, are rather interesting. Obviously, the alleged date of May 9th and May 10th is the first-degree murder count. May 9th and May 10th for the tampering. And then the tampering with physical evidence, the dates are expanded. So count 3, tampering with physical evidence, a Class 6 felony. The presumptive range is 12 to 18 months in the Colorado Department of Corrections if Mr. Morphew would be convicted. The count alleges between and including May 9th of 2020 and March 4th of 2021, right? Here we are May, so through March 4th of 2021, Barry Lee Morphew, believing that an official proceeding was pending or about to be instituted and acting without legal right or authority, unlawfully, like we talked about previously, which means without legal permission or justification, feloniously, destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered physical evidence with intent to impair its veridity or availability in the pending or prospective official proceeding. All in violation of Colorado Revised Statute 18.8-610, paragraph 1A. And that's interesting, the date range there from May 9th of 2020, obviously last year, all the way up to March 4th. So obviously they're saying this is kind of an ongoing thing, that he was in the process of tampering with physical evidence. That's interesting if they think he's gone to a site, did something with the remains of Suzanne Morphew. It'll be interesting to see. Count 4, possession of a dangerous weapon between and including May 9th of 2020 and March 4th of 2021. Barry Lee Morphew unlawfully, feloniously, knowingly possessed a dangerous weapon, namely a short rifle, in violation of Section 18-12-102, paren 3. Not really sure why they're charging that, unless they're saying that this was perhaps the rifle or maybe had something to do with the alleged cause of death. We don't know. We'll talk about that in just a second. Count 5, attempting to influence a public official. Between and including May 10th of 2020 and May 5th of 2021, Barry Lee Morphew unlawfully and feloniously attempted to influence Damon Brown, Lamine Molyneux, Robin Burgess, Alexander Walker, Joseph Cahill, Derek Graham, Kenneth Harris, and Jonathan Grusing, public servants, by means of deceit, with the intent thereby to alter or affect the public servant's decision, vote, opinion, or action concerning a matter which was to be considered or performed by the public servant or the agency of the body for which the public servant was a member. Those are the official charges. Linda Stanley, her attorney registration there is behind that. You can always tell, attorney, how long they've been practicing here in the state of Colorado by their attorney registration number. Hers is 45, so she's probably been practicing 10, 15 years or so, but it's an elected position. Then the senior deputy district attorney is Jeffrey Lindsay. He's been practicing by attorney registration number of 24664, probably about 28 to 30 years, right around in that time frame. And he is the senior deputy district attorney that is going to more than likely be handling this case in court. The other issue on Barry Morphew is the fact that they have not released the affidavit for the arrest warrant. And the court has basically stated that there's been an objection filed, and then therefore under the rules, each side has 14 days. And if you're going to object in any way, the court issued an order dated May 14th on this matter, which was, I guess, 4 days ago, sometime last week. If there's any party in opposition to the motion, has until May 27th to file a response to the motion, and then until the court resolves the motion, the arrest affidavit and the motion of any response to the motion is to remain inaccessible to the public. Now, I don't get this, and I mean, I get it, but the reality of it is that the affidavit for arrest warrant is going to be released. I really don't know what the defense thinks they're going to gain some tactical advantage by reviewing the affidavit, or making it so that nobody else can see it, at least for the next 14 days. as I understand it, there's a bit of a transition. As you may recall, the public defender appeared with Barry Morphew at his first advisement. It's been, I guess, reported that Mr. Morphew has retained new counsel. It's the firm of Itan and Drew Nielsen. So it's Iris Itan and Drew Nielsen. Now, where do you say? Drew Nielsen. Where do I remember that name? That's right. She was the attorney for Crystal Lee Kenny, the nurse. Crystal Lee Kenny in the Patrick Frazee case in regards to the death of Kelsey Barrett. And obviously, she did a very good job for her client in that particular situation in a couple of ways. One, she knew her client was in a tough spot and possibly even could have been implicated as a principal, but she got a Class 6 felony, the same one that old Barry Morphew's been charged with. That's right. And she even agreed in her plea paperwork that she was going to be in the aggravated range. So instead of 12 months to 18 months in the Colorado Department of Corrections, it was doubled up to 36 months. Ms. Nielsen, the attorney, did a very good job for her client, because she didn't correct the judge or the prosecutor as to the appropriate advisement. Now, one would say, well, wasn't that kind of not right? Yeah, no. It's not the defense counsel's job to do the prosecutor's job or the judge's job. They did an insufficient advisement. They appealed. Remember, Crystal Lee Kenny appealed her 36-month sentence in the Department of Corrections. The Court of Appeals agreed that it was an ineffective advisement, and therefore the sentence went from 36 months down to 18. Crystal Lee Kenny was immediately released on parole and sent on her way. So we will see if that's in fact the case. We understand it. Drew Nielsen, she is a very skilled attorney. Iris Itan as well. They both started out as public defenders. I think they were there for a good at least 10 to 12 years, got a lot of experience. And since they've been in private practice, they've had some high-profile cases and done very well for themselves. Had some good results. The last one, I think, was a homicide up in Weld County and got a not guilty. So Mr. Morphew, I guess he's actually, going to be spending any inheritance that he would have, been using for the kids, a college education in the future, to use for his attorneys. But he can do that. As you recall, he was able to sell the house. Any of those proceeds, they're at his disposal. And he's going to spend, what do you have to lose? If you are looking at spending the rest of your life in prison, you'd probably spend every last penny to make sure you got the best defense possible. Because if you go to trial and you lose, the chances of undoing that conviction are extremely rare. And I've had to explain this type of circumstance over the years to people that, let's put it this way. People don't want to spend the money. They don't think that they should have to spend the money on hiring an attorney. They don't want to spend the money on a great attorney. I had a case once. Someone came to hire me and said, "We need your help. This is the case." I said, "Here's the fee." They said, "Oh, that's too expensive." Fine. Have a great day. Went to trial, promptly got convicted. Then they come back and said, "Would you do our appeal?" Okay, we did. Here's the price. Well, that's double what you were going to charge me for just doing the case. I said, "You're right," because now I got to review the case, try to find out where the error and mistake was made, and try to undo it, which is nearly impossible. In that particular case got reversed. Case came back, able to get a very good disposition. But you don't go cheap when it comes to hiring your attorney, okay? Nobody likes to pay attorney's fees. Nobody likes to pay it, okay? No, brings nobody pleasure. But if you are looking at spending time in prison, you go all in. You get the best defense you can afford, and you go for it. Because guess what? If you win and you get your freedom back, you can always make more money. But you can't, get that conviction reversed. It's about 2% of all convictions that go up ever come back and get completely reversed for a new trial. So you just, you have to, you just got to do it. So Barry Morphew, at least he's, not going cheap on the defense, because if these attorneys, Drew Nielsen and Iris Aitan, are in fact, their attorneys, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be very, very expensive. I just saw, all right, so let me take a look. Saw a couple of comments here. Nice green screen. No, we are actually at an undisclosed location in Denver, possibly sitting even at my kitchen table, and that is not a green screen. Usually green screens, they kind of get all faded or something like that. Lisa has a question. I wonder if the daughters turned on him. As far as we know, no. And for all we know, they're the ones helping, making arrangements to get the attorneys. So we'll see. Big zebra. Oh, I can't see a super chat. Let's see. Oh, let's see here. Wow, there's a lot of comments here. I can't see a super. I don't see it here. Sorry. I'm on this. Sorry. Let's see. I can't see it. Anyway, let me see. Richard, can Scott play the piano? Scott has been trying, although I really tried for a while. I've had for 10 years. And I practice, and then I get busy, and I don't. I wish, if there's one regret in life, all you kids out there, or all the parents that got kids, I'm telling you, the one regret is play a musical instrument, all right? I remember playing the saxophone as a kid. I don't want to play saxophone, whatever. My kid, my son particularly, going to take piano lessons. He was actually pretty good at it, and then he stopped. I think my daughter took piano lessons too for a while, and then I got busy. You had so many activities, you only could do so much. And then my son one day, what does he tell me in college? I really wish you hadn't let me quit taking piano lessons, because all the girls love it, and my friend plays, and we go to parties or whatever, and it's just, I'm like, I told you to keep taking it, but no, you wanted to stop. I wish, play a musical instrument. Right, Frank? Mm-hmm. Julie, do you play a musical instrument?
No, I did play the saxophone in 5th and 6th grade.
Yeah, that's same here. The lovely Miss Kristen. Did you ever play a musical instrument?
The clarinet.
Oh, the clarinet. In, let me guess, 5th or 6th grade? Yep. Yeah. Debbie M. Scott got kicked out of the office. No. I'm in trial. I'm in trial. Day 2, supposed to go 5 days. We'll see. We've been going right up to 5 o'clock. Didn't know if traffic was going to be able to make it there back to the Crime Talk studios. So Frank and Julie were gracious enough. The lovely Miss Kristen was gracious enough to let us storm in here to this undisclosed location and use the kitchen table so that we could do this tonight. So that was a big thank you to them. And it means I don't have to drive home at like 9 o'clock at night. So that's even better. They do. And we're doing a little project here, so we got to do that. It kind of worked out well. So let's see here. If anyone has any questions. By the way, 1,200 people watching right now. That's great.
We need lights.
Okay, yeah. So let's just restart here. All right. For those who haven't joined, my name is Scott Reisch. Well, obviously, we were talking about the Barry Morphew matter. The charges just recently were filed. He has formal advisement on the 27th. And so, like we've talked about before, right, this is not an indictment. So Barry Morphew will be entitled to a preliminary hearing. he has a right to that hearing within 35 days. More than likely, the defense attorneys will waive that 35 days in which to have the preliminary hearing so that they can get all the discovery. Remember, the government's had a year to build their case, and to only have 35 days to go through everything, send out investigators, talk to parties, analyze what is there, what isn't there. It may take longer than that. Remember, this is not their only case, and so the attorneys are going to need some time. At the preliminary hearing, more than likely, the government will put up their officer, the lead detective, who drafted the affidavit for the arrest warrant. Normally, at a preliminary hearing, even for first-degree murder, that is where the prosecution puts up their witness. They only have to present, sufficient evidence to establish probable cause, where a reasonable person believed that a crime was committed and that Barry Morphew had something to do with it. And at that point, it's going to be rather straightforward in regards to whether the case gets bound over. And obviously, a judge has already found that there is probable cause. So the chances of the case getting thrown out at the preliminary hearing are probably about slim to none. The defense will use that as a tool of discovery. Get up there and be able to ask the lead detective on this particular case. So what evidence do you have? What assumptions have you made? What did you consider? Why didn't you consider this? Those types of things. You don't want to necessarily tip your hand. You want to use it as a tool of discovery for the defense. Locking those witnesses into their statements. So if they change their mind, or not change their mind, they change their testimony at a later date, they've been, they made those statements under oath, and they should be, they're there for impeachment type purposes. So after the preliminary hearing, then it gets bound over to the district court for an arraignment. At the arraignment, that's where they enter a plea of either guilty or not guilty. You have to assume it'll be not guilty. The plea would be, and then the government then has 6 months from that date to get Mr. Morphew to trial. Now, the one thing you should probably anticipate from the time that we've had the arrest to the time we get to trial, anticipate roughly 1 year until we get to trial. So we'll probably be talking about the Barry Morphew case for a year, at least the next year. And the good thing about the attorneys that apparently Mr. Morphew or his family has hired is that he is hiring some very good trial attorneys. These are not a bunch of amateurs. They are going to be able to provide a very good defense, or in the alternative, if there's a deal to be had, to take it. And obviously, we'll give Mr. Barry Morphew the presumption of innocence like we've always done. Now, for those of you who may have just joined us, the complaint information was filed. Count 1, murder in the first degree. Count 2, tampering with a deceased human body. Obviously, the F1 is the most serious. That is life. F3 is 4 to 12 years. The F6 is 12 to 18 months in jail. Possession of a dangerous weapon, that's an F5. That's 1 to 3 years potentially in prison. And an F4, the attempt to influence a public official, it's a class 4 felony that carries up to 2 to 6 years. Now, let's face it, the only charge that really matters is murder. If Barry Morphew is found guilty of count 1, then more than likely he's going to be found guilty of counts 2 through 5. If he's found not guilty, it's probably all or nothing either way. So it really just doesn't matter what's going to go on as far as these other cases, these other counts. Yes, the defense still has to deal with them. The prosecution still has to prove them beyond a reasonable doubt. But clearly the most serious charge, murder in the first degree, which carries life without the possibility of parole, is the most serious charge. That's the one that's going to keep Barry Morphew up at night and thinking about it. And, we'll just have to, really, this is going to be great. This is going to be great for sure. Jen, Scott, what kind of evidence do you think they have? Well, Jen, good question. What I find very interesting, what's the word I'm looking at? What's the word I'm saying? What I find very interesting about the charges is the date ranges, okay? The murder is alleged between May 9th and May 10th of 2020. Same thing with the tampering with deceased human remains. So basically they're saying that more than likely Barry Morphew did something to Suzanne Morphew on May 9th, or probably late hours or early morning hours of May 10th, and then perhaps disposed of her remains. Then the issue becomes, if you look at the tampering with physical evidence, May 9th of 2020 all the way through March 4th of 2021. So literally up until just a few months ago, they're stating that Barry Morphew was tampering with evidence. That's interesting. And then the same thing with the possession of a dangerous weapon. It's a short rifle. You can't, possess, sawed off, rifles, things like that. So that gets a little weird, but the question is that something that had to do with the death of Suzanne Morphew, or was that just something that they found in the course of their investigation? As you may recall, Barry Morphew was also charged with basically forgery, a misdemeanor forgery count last week. Which is frankly not his the biggest concern, but basically he signed his wife's name on the ballot for the election. I guess the prosecutor, could have, let it go, prosecutorial discretion. That case is going to trail the obviously the homicide case, because in the big picture, who cares? We're talking about the death of Suzanne Morphew. We're not going to get into basically a forgery case. Unless the prosecutor somehow wants to, get that crime of moral turpitude of forgery. But the short weapon, it says, and this is pursuant to the statute, 1812-102, paragraph 3. As used in this section, the term dangerous weapon means a firearm, silencer, machine gun, short shotgun, short rifle, or ballistic knife. And then paragraph 3, a person who knowingly possesses a dangerous weapon commits a class 5 felony. Each subsequent violation by the same person shall be a class 4 felony. Let's just double check the short rifle definition. And I wish I had my my jury instruction book right now, because I could look up perhaps faster. Okay, short rifle means having a barrel less than 16 inches long or an overall length or fewer than 26 inches. So basically making a shot off rifle, shotgun, so to speak, so the blast kind of blows out more. So that's not, it'd be curious to see. We need the affidavit. All right. I hate, we can glean a lot from the charges themselves, but we really, really need the affidavit for the arrest warrant. That's going to be the crux of the case. And it just frustrates me that the defense is objecting, or wanted 15 days. Like, just release it. It's going to get released. It's not going to affect the case, other than maybe, obviously the world out there on the internet, we've seen it where it's been so effective, can start looking into this information as well. And whether it's people trying to help Barry Morphew or the prosecution, this is the kind of stuff where really the public can help. So I'm not sure why they're want to delay that in any way. It's really, really not going to do anything like that. Let's see. Let's take a couple of questions here. Question: will we ever get to see the lovely Miss Kristen? I don't know. Are we ever going to get to see the Apparently not tonight. She's working over there in the corner. Kicked her out of her little spot so she could do that. And you maybe have heard a little squeaky toy. Yes, Miss Winnie the Bulldog is roaming around at my feet sometimes and has a little toy that she likes to squeak. Sandy, do you think Barry will tell us where he took her? Well, my guess is probably no. And like I said, we're given the presumption of innocence. I'm just answering the question. No. Okay. Colorado no longer has a death penalty. Now, even though this may have fallen under it, let's get real, people. This is not going to be charged as a death penalty case. Simply not going to be. Okay? And some people probably won't like this. I mean, as a defense attorney, I get it. I mean, I've only had one client that they said, we're going to go death. Ultimately, they changed their mind because we did some pretty good work for them. And they changed their mind and said, we're not going to spend the resources doing that. But think about it. And I don't understand why the legislators do this stuff. Okay, you can agree, you can disagree about the death penalty. But from the standpoint of a prosecutor, it is one of the greatest tools that they have to use leverage. Okay, I've seen it where they said, hey, tell us where the body is and we won't go death. And I've seen it. People are like, okay, let me lead you where the body is. Okay. But we don't have, that tool doesn't exist for prosecutors anymore. And, some people are like, oh, it's absolutely great. It's fabulous. No death penalty. I get it. People can agree to disagree on that, but the death penalty is not unconstitutional in the United States. States may choose not to have a death penalty, but it is not unconstitutional to do so. So, states, I think, and I'm a defense attorney. Do I want my client put to death? No, but let's look at it objectively, right? Let's be intellectually honest. Don't you want to give legal tools to your prosecutors so that they can come up with, things to help get resolutions in the case? Let me know. Some people, is that a funeral parlor? Ouch. 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 No. I'm not even going to go there, ladies and gentlemen. You can't see it, but there's a rug that's rolled up there that we had to roll up because when Miss Winnie the Bulldog showed up, she was being potty trained. Let's just say we weren't going to have the dog do her business on that rug. Sarah Martino, do attorneys feel guilty defending murderers? I would generally think no. Everybody's entitled to a defense, even people accused of doing bad things. Nowhere does it say that because somebody is representing a defendant accused of doing terrible things that the defense attorney somehow condones what they're accused to have done. Simply not the case at all. So, yeah. The dog, you can probably hear that, can't you? The dog's over here slurping. Gosh, that's professional, isn't it? So there we go. Yeah. Okay. Lisa knew short gun barrel, typically under 18 inches. Teresa says, Barry too much of a narcissist to admit he did something wrong. I believe he'll claim innocence to his dying day. Well, yeah. And his daughters are on his side. Do you think he's going to come out someday and say, oh my God, I did something terrible to your mother? Probably not. Okay. I've seen that as well, where people would rather go to prison claiming their innocence, saying they've been wrongfully convicted after being wrongfully accused, because for whatever reason, they don't want to have to admit to family, friends, that they did what they're accused of doing. Whether for, moral reasons, family reasons, religious reasons, it just, we'll have to wait and see. Sandy wants to know, Scott, do you think if found guilty, Barry would give up where the body is located? My position would be, and I'm sure his attorney, listen, nobody's going to give up anything in a particular case unless you get something in exchange for it. Okay? And this is what people need to realize. When you're in the legal system, all right, you have morality and then you have legality. Okay? Morally, everyone should always do the right thing. They should confess. They should do it. It's just the right thing to do. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's only going to, if you're a defendant, you're going to screw yourself. Okay? When I've seen people get screwed more times than not when they say, I just feel really bad. I just got to let somebody know. And they tell the police, as a defense attorney, you're like, call me up, tell me all your sins, pay me a retainer. I won't tell anybody. I'm sure you'll feel much better. And my advice to be, never repeat that again. Okay? If you say that, it is going to get you convicted. So you seriously do not want to do that. In a situation like this, nobody is going to give anything up unless they get something in exchange for it. What? I'm sure Barry Morphew wants to go home. If he starts saying, oh, I know where a body is, and I'm not saying he does, what is that going to help them do? It's going to convict him. He's not going to do that. So, no, I don't think he ever would. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's absolutely convinced. Maybe that's going to be their defense. The mountain lion dragged them off or something along those lines. Let's take more of the questions. Let's see here. AJ McCleary, I bet they'll turn up a ton of dirt in Indiana. There's already a rumor of dirty business dealings, so he had to get out of town quick. Just rumors. Well, we don't want to. I shouldn't have read that because we don't like rumors. Graham Green, super chat here. Do you think they found a body part? I don't know. I think it's going to be very similar to the Patrick Frazee matter, where they're going to have something and they're going to try to be able to show that she's deceased. They have some idea where she may be and how she, disappeared. If you look at those charges again, let's jump back to that. If you look at the charges, tampering with deceased human body. So clearly they believe that obviously Suzanne Morphew is dead. Otherwise we wouldn't be charging murder. But they're saying that he willfully destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered a human body, part of a human body, or human remains with intent to impair its or the appearance or availability in the official proceedings. So they have some evidence that they believe is sufficient and that they can prove that he did something that mutilated, destroyed, concealed, altered the body. Could be buried it, chopped it up into little pieces. We don't know yet because we don't have the affidavit. That will be a defining moment for sure. Jen Lowe, those that commit egregious crimes should do the time. The end. Okay, I appreciate that, Jen, but you still have to give people due process. You can't just throw people in the jail because you think they've done bad things. You know, we've talked about this before. The United States Constitution guarantees everybody a right to an attorney, a right to a jury trial. Okay? The Bill of Rights, take a look at them, right? The Fourth Amendment, right to be secure in your home, your papers, your things. Fifth Amendment, right to due process, right to remain silent. Sixth Amendment, right to counsel, right to a jury trial. These are written in the Constitution, and anybody who appreciates the law has to appreciate the fact that the fundamental principles of criminal law come from the United States Constitution. Okay, we're not just making this up to make things difficult. These are what the founding fathers said, and the states wouldn't ratify the Constitution unless they were in the Bill of Rights because they didn't trust the government. Remember, the king was not a nice man. He would make an allegation if he didn't like you, throw you in the gallows, maybe give you a trial, maybe give you an attorney if he thought, it was going to be good enough. He'd appoint somebody to oversee the case that he personally appointed, and he wouldn't even have to bring you to trial within a specified period of time. He could lock you up and throw you in the gallows. Maybe you pass away. Maybe they forget about it. Maybe one day when the king said, let him go, that's good enough, that would be it. So the founding fathers said, we're not going to do that. And so I get it. Terrible people, and sometimes good people, do some very terrible things. But it doesn't necessarily make them, guilty as charged. They may be guilty of something, but they may not be guilty of what they're actually charged with. But you have to give them due process. If you don't give them due process, you might as well just say, hey, let's just bring the system they have over there in China. The dictator says that a crime was committed, throw you in jail, hold a show trial, and lock you away forever. So I get it. People don't like or want bad people that have done bad things to get away with things, but you have to give them due process. All right. It's a constitutional right. It's not something that is what's the word I'm looking for? It is not a technicality. It is a fundamental right in due process. And now there was a case that came out yesterday that the United States Supreme Court went 9-0 on it. Okay. And this case had huge ramifications because basically what happened was, and let me pull up the guy's name here because I don't have it right in front of me, but it was a violation of the defendant's right to the Fourth Amendment. And the gist of the case was that the defendant was having an argument with his wife, and apparently a firearm came out, and he said, well, you might as well just use it and get it over with, something to that effect. The wife calls the police. The police show up, and he's like, that's completely taken out of context. What are you guys doing here? Get out of my house. Well, they arrest the defendant. They take him away. The wife then says, ooh, yeah, there may be a couple more firearms in the house. So the police go through the house without a warrant, and seize 2 firearms in the house. The man sues in federal court saying, you police officers violated my constitutional rights to be safe in my home from unreasonable search and seizure. A 9-0 decision by the United States Supreme Court. Doesn't happen that often, okay? And what did the police and everybody state in that particular situation? It's what they've referred to as the caretaker's doctrine, okay? So if they pull an example of where this comes into play is if you get pulled over on the road and you have no license or DUI, the police can tow your vehicle so it remains safe. Now, before we can tow your vehicle, we have to inventory it, not only for your protection, but for the police officer's protection. And so we're going to inventory it. Ooh, look what we happen to find in this inventory search, something illegal. And that's the argument that they made. And the United States Supreme Court rejected that by 9-0 decision, saying, yeah, no, this caretaker doctrine that you're relying upon is good for some things, but you can't claim it anytime you just want to do what you want to do. And why is that really significant? And one of the justices wrote a concurring opinion, and he says it has a lot to do with these red flag laws where they say, oh, somebody's dangerous. They have a weapon. Go take the weapon. United States Supreme Court, at least one of the justices saying, not so fast. You may not want to do that. It's good to know every now and then a little life gets breathed into the Constitution and the applicable amendments. That's for sure. Yes. There we go. Let's see here. I'm just looking at it. There's a couple of questions here. Shannon, that is a beautiful, tasteful living room.
It might look like a funeral parlor because my mother's.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, anyway, the room was designed by the lovely Miss Kristen and a highly paid professional. So we'll just leave it at that. Although I would say that the couch that I love got moved all the way upstairs, and it's just great, but we'll just leave that at that. But it's probably the urn with the remains of Sandy, the lovely Miss Kristen's mother, sitting there. That's for sure. Let's see here. 1,000 rights net. Now, Scott, show the puppy. If we can get 1,000 likes, can we show the puppy? Well, maybe. Wow, can you believe?
Frank and the puppy.
Oh, yeah.
People, everyone wants to see Frank. Let's see here. Let's see if find some questions here, but we moved on. Obviously, like I said, the big story is the charges were actually filed against Barry Morphew, the most serious charge being the crime of murder after deliberation. Class 1 felony, carries life without parole. Sarah, I just want to say that I used to hate defense attorneys, but now I can appreciate how the legal system works. Defense attorneys are crucial to ensure there is no prosecutorial misconduct. Good answer, Sarah. And don't get me wrong, there's some real jerks out there that are attorneys. I've met a lot of them, okay? I personally don't think that I am one of them, but I'm going to zealously represent my client for sure, and play within the rules, both legally and ethically, because, Scott, trying to get a guilty person off is not due process. Julie, totally disagree with you, Julie. What is due process? Making the prosecution prove beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense charged. That is due process. Absolutely. You have to give people a trial. You have to give people an attorney. You have to be able to see the evidence that's going to be used against you, right? We talked about that. King didn't say, oh, here's all the evidence against you. He'd say, I don't like what you did. I'll let you know when I get around to charging you. You have a right to a jury. You have a right to confront and cross-examine witnesses. The greatest truth-seeking tool ever invented. Okay? Case in point. Had a trial maybe 4 weeks ago, last time I was in trial. Person accused of very serious charges, but nobody ever confronted the complaining witness whatsoever. They said, "Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Bad things happen to you. Oh my God, we don't want to re-traumatize you, so we're not going to talk about it." And all those bad things happened, right? Tell us those bad things happened. Yes, 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 right? And so I have to do my voir dire and say, hey, I'm the guy that's going to ask the elephant in the room questions. You're going to hold that against me if you don't like it? And of course, the jury's like, no, no, no. Well, guess what? The first time in a year and a half that anybody had ever been able to truly question the complaining witness and basically said, you're fabricating this. And on cross-examination, the witness agreed. And that they weren't going to change their story out of fear of getting in trouble. Did that statement come out when they made the allegation? When they went to the police and they said, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Oh my God, that's terrible to you. We're not going to talk about it, but that's terrible. All the times that they met with the district attorney and said, those things happened, right? The bad things. Did they ever happen more times that you just haven't told us about? Oh yeah, probably more times. Oh my God, more bad things, but don't tell me any details about it. So it wasn't until trial that the evil, mean defense attorney making sure that they have their due process rights. That's right. Due process, right to confrontation, not a technicality. And the complaining witness admitted she fabricated the story. Nowhere in the year and a half process did anybody ever take the time and say, you know what? Some of your story just doesn't make sense whatsoever. It wasn't until the defense attorney showed up and asked the questions that should have been asked a year and a half ago, and the case never charged, or the complaining witness possibly even charged herself. But they didn't do that because everybody wants to believe the victim. And I understand bad crimes happen, but there are cases where people make stuff up, and you have to be very selective. And why? Because they're required to due process. If somebody just made a terrible allegation against somebody, and I think it was, who asked that question here? I think I lost it. Oh, Julie. I mean, what if I went to the police and said, Julie threatened me, right? You go to court. I say, I'm an officer of the court. Julie threatened me. I can't believe what she did to me. Oh my God. Charge her with harassment. They put a warrant out for arrest. I mean, you'd want to say, well, what did she say? Where did she say it? All right. When you're the accused, it's no longer a technicality. It's called defending your livelihood, defending your freedom, defending your right to be a law-abiding citizen. Say, I did not do that. So, yes, people do bad things. And yes, juries can find people guilty. People take pleas all the time and they admit what they did, or they're convicted. A jury finds that they've done something wrong. But until that point, they have to be given the presumption of innocence. And guess what? I'm not making that up. That's not me. Those are the standard in jury instructions that you're going to hear from any judge in any criminal case anywhere across the country, whether it be state, municipal, or a federal court. That presumption of innocence remains until and if the jury finds somebody guilty or they plead guilty. All right, here. Let's a couple more questions. Let's see here. Something about DNA at that house. Small amount from when he murdered her. Do you think renting a condo next door? Do you think the girlfriend was Ellie or just flipped on him? No idea. No idea. We're going to have to wait and see what takes place. Wow. Can you believe it's already been an hour? Okay. Oh, Rain. I watched Billions on Showtime, the recommendation, and love the show. I don't make recommendations, people, unless I truly believe it. It's kind of like CrimeTalk Search, right? Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for that thing. I'm telling you, we use it in my law practice. You want to know something about somebody? Go do it. Sign up for a subscription, and then you can do it as many times as you want. Frank, you got that little commercial? Let's run that commercial really quick. Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. We are back. Thanks for watching. Got a couple more questions here. Super chats. Detective's daughter. Scott, do you know anything about Barry's new attorney, Iris Itan? Yes. Her partner, law partner, Drew Nielsen. They're a duo. They kind of go everywhere together on big cases that they do together. Both excellent, excellent attorneys. Good thing Barry Morphew was able to get all that equity out of that house, cash it in, because they are going to spend every penny of it, and they're going to earn it because they're going to do a great job for him. I don't know how they found them, but the reality of it is they are great attorneys, and they're going to give him one hell of a defense. There's no doubt about it. But it's going to be expensive. So I'm telling you, good thing he was able to get that, get all that equity out and put it in the bank. And, he can use it because he hasn't been convicted of anything. Thanks for the super chat, Michelle. Appreciate that. Scott, when will we get more information on the evidence? I'm told now May 27th. That's when more than likely the ruling from the judge will come out on as it relates to the affidavit for the arrest warrant being released. And then when that gets released, look out. We will probably go live, read it line by line, and discuss it. And just remember, just because it's in the affidavit doesn't make it true. You hope the cops got it right, but it doesn't make it true. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's see here. Tanya, I would definitely want Scott if I needed a defense attorney. Well, Tanya, hopefully you'll never need me. All right. I have people tell me all the time, oh, I can't believe I have to hire a defense attorney. So I have to hire somebody like you. And I think to myself, really? Because you're the one hiring me. You're the one got in trouble. So yeah, there we go. Okay. How long does the judge have to decide if he's going to release the affidavit? The court said that May 27th is they're going to make their ruling. All right. So a couple things here before we go off to our Patreon show. If you haven't become a Patreon member, do so. We'll send you the link. And we can do that. And do we have capabilities to do the call tonight? Oh, yeah, we still have capabilities to do the call, even though we're basically on the road in an undisclosed location of Scott sitting at his kitchen table. So, yeah, we'll be able to do that shortly. And also, we have Miss Winnie here. Maybe she just went out the back door with Julie for the first time, and she's not squeaking a toy in the background. So if you heard the toy squeaking, that's right. That was Miss Winnie squeaking her toys. She's got a favorite, the giggle ball, which we'll never give her. But for those of you who said, I want to see the dog, hold on 1 second. Come here, Winnie. Come here, Winnie. Her baby shark. One of her favorite toys, the baby shark. Come here. Oh, she's heavy. She's a beast. And here's Miss Winnie, the bulldog. And she is solid muscle. And what you can do, if you want to see it, because it kind of started out almost as a joke, but it's actually grown pretty big. What are we up to? 12, 1,300?
At least 13.
1,300 people. She has her own TikTok. Miss Winnie, the bulldog. because she gets to, enjoy the lap of luxury, sleeps wherever she wants, snores wherever she wants. She gets her own little pool that she bathes in. She has toys galore. It is like and look, she even gets a little scarf of the day. She is probably one of the most spoiled dogs in America at this particular time. That's for sure. Let's see. Would wish Scott would run for prez. No one would vote for me because I would tell it the way it is. And people don't want the truth. They don't like the truth. And that's what I have to do. I have to tell people the truth. I have to tell clients the truth. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Everybody wants to hear what they think they want to hear. So Rosie, how long did the judge have to decide if he's going to release it? May 27th. That's going to be a great, good day. We'll get to see what they have. Let's see here. Got a couple more questions before we end the show here. I want to thank everybody for joining in. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. If you haven't done so, hit that like button. Rochelle, Scott, do you think Barry Morphew is going to ask for a change of venue? Well, it's going to be very similar to the Lori Vallow Chad DeBell matter. This is in Chaffee County. And I think Salida is where the courthouse is there. But it's a small community, but we're going to have to wait and see. I've done cases that had lots of news media attention, and you just bring in a lot more jurors. You'd be surprised. You can find them if you just bring in enough. We had a case, it was double deceased children, issues of cults, all this stuff. We'd moved it inside the jurisdiction from Telluride to Montrose. And we just brought in, I think, 600 jurors to find them. And guess what? We found 12 jurors plus 2 alternates. It happens. It can be done. It's not a big, it just depends. If you can't select a jury, that's normally when you make a motion for change of venue. Unless, the case I had was very obvious. The judge was like, yeah, we're moving it. But sometimes you have to wait until you try to select a jury. And if everybody's, change of venue is pretty rare. Because you just have to wait and see until you can find jurors. You'd be surprised how many people don't watch the news, don't care about cases, maybe heard something about it, but haven't formed any opinions. So yeah, that's we'll just have to wait and see. All right, yeah, Lisa, putting May 28th on my calendar. That's right, because the 27th is getting released, and guess what? You may as well put the 27th on there because we'll try to bring it to you live. Maybe we'll just do the commentary live because we can't stream the WebEx here in Colorado without getting in trouble. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning this evening. If you haven't done so, we'll continue the conversation on our Patreon. If you're a Patreon member, we'll send you that link if we haven't done so already. And we'll be with you shortly. And on top of that, guess what? That's right. Patreon, you can call. That's right. You can call. You can have a whole conversation. We've got Frank. We've got Julie. We've got the lovely Miss Kristen and Miss Winnie the Bulldog. So please join us, and we'll see you in a few minutes on our Patreon page.